They thought he was just another old man. They had no idea who he really was or what he was about to lose. Welcome to the story room. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you're watching from. Let me tell you about a Christmas Eve that nobody expected. A night that started with tears and ended with something beautiful. A night that proved money can't buy what your heart really needs. Picture this. London, Christmas Eve. Snow falling softly on the streets. Families rushing past with shopping bags full of gifts. Children laughing, couples holding hands. Everyone heading somewhere warm. Everyone had someone waiting for them. Everyone except one woman sitting alone in a fancy restaurant, crying into her cold soup. Her name was Victoria Blake, and if you'd asked anyone in London, they'd tell you she had it all. At 70 years old, she'd built the largest real estate empire in Britain. Started with nothing but a small office and a phone 40 years ago. Now she owned hundreds of properties across Europe. Her company put roofs over thousands of heads. Her wealth was the kind people write about in newspapers. But here's what those newspapers never told you. Success doesn't hug you goodnight. Money doesn't remember your birthday. Fame doesn't hold your hand when you're scared. Victoria sat in her wheelchair at the Silver Rose, the most expensive restaurant in the city. She wore an elegant black dress that hung loose on her thin frame. Her gray hair was perfectly styled. On the table in front of her sat a bowl of French onion soup, untouched and getting cold. She watched the other diners around her. A grandfather teaching his grandson how to crack open a lobster. Two sisters arguing playfully about who got the last bread roll. An elderly couple sharing a dessert, feeding each other small bites, still in love after probably 50 years together. Victoria's phone lay dark and silent on the white tablecloth. Her daughter Rachel had sent a message that morning. "Merry Christmas, Mum. Sorry we can't fly in from Australia this year. Work is crazy. Maybe Easter? Love you." The same excuse as last year. And the year before that. 6 years ago, Victoria's husband George died suddenly. One minute they were planning a trip to Scotland. The next minute he was gone. Heart attack. Just like that. Victoria survived, but something inside her broke that day. Something that never healed. 3 months after George died, Victoria fell down the stairs in their big empty house. The doctors saved her life, but she never walked again. Now she spent her days in a wheelchair, rolling through rooms that echoed with memories. Her daughter Rachel lived in Sydney now, building her own career, raising her own children. Too far away to visit. Too busy to call more than once a month. Victoria understood. She'd been the same way when she was young, too focused on making money to spend time with her own parents. Now here she was, 70 years old, billions in the bank, hundreds of employees. Her face had been in magazines, and she was spending Christmas Eve alone in a restaurant, crying where everyone could see. A tear rolled down her cheek. She quickly wiped it away, embarrassed. What would people think? A rich old woman crying on Christmas. How pathetic. "Excuse me, lady." Victoria looked up startled. Standing next to her table was a little girl, maybe 6 or 7 years old. She had big brown eyes and black hair tied with a green ribbon. She wore a simple Christmas jumper with a reindeer on it, and she was staring at Victoria with real concern on her small face. "Why are you crying?" the girl asked. Not rude. Just honest, the way only children can be. Victoria tried to smile. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just thinking about things. My teacher says when grown-ups cry, it means they're sad and need help," the girl said seriously. "Are you sad?" Before Victoria could answer, a young woman rushed over. She looked about 35, with dark skin and tired eyes. She wore a server's uniform with a name tag that said Grace. Her face showed exhaustion, but also kindness. "Lily, baby, I told you to stay at our table," Grace said gently. Then she looked at Victoria with apologetic eyes. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. She's supposed to be waiting while I finish my shift." "It's quite all right," Victoria heard herself say. "She's not bothering me at all." But Lily wasn't finished. She reached into her pocket and pulled out something wrapped in a paper napkin. She held it out to Victoria like it was made of diamonds. "I made this for you," Lily said simply. Because nobody should cry on Christmas. Victoria took it with shaking hands. Inside was a drawing done in crayons on a restaurant napkin. 3 stick figures holding hands under a Christmas tree. At the bottom, in wobbly letters, it said, "Family equals love." Victoria stared at that simple drawing, and something inside her frozen heart cracked open. Something that had been locked away for 6 long years. "The tall one is my mummy," Lily explained, pointing. "The little one is me. The middle one was my daddy, but he's in heaven now with the angels." Victoria's eyes shot up to Grace, who stood there with pain written across her face. The same pain Victoria carried every single day. "I'm so sorry," Victoria whispered. Grace nodded, her throat working. "Thank you. Come on, Lily. Let's let this nice lady eat her dinner." "But she's not eating," Lily said with that brutal honesty only children have. "And she's all alone." "Nobody should be alone on Christmas, Mummy." Lily looked up at her mother with such determination. Grace looked at her daughter, then at Victoria, and something passed between the two women. A knowing. They both understood what loss felt like. They both knew what it meant to keep going when you wanted to give up. And in that moment, Victoria made a decision that would change 3 lives forever. "When does your shift end?" Victoria asked suddenly. Grace looked surprised. "In about 15 minutes, but..." "Would you join me then?" The words tumbled out of Victoria before she could stop them. "Please. I have too much food, and I would truly love the company." Lily was already climbing into the chair across from Victoria, her face lighting up like a Christmas tree. Grace hesitated, looking between her daughter and this elegant stranger in a wheelchair. "Are you sure?" Grace asked quietly. "We don't want to intrude." "I've never been more sure of anything," Victoria said, and she meant it with her whole heart. 20 minutes later, Grace returned wearing jeans and a worn coat. She looked nervous, like she didn't belong in this fancy restaurant as a guest instead of a server. Victoria had already ordered more food. Fish fingers for Lily. A proper hot meal for Grace. And she'd asked them to warm up her own soup, which she was actually hungry for now. "Tell me about yourselves," Victoria said as they settled in. The story came out slowly as they ate. Grace's husband, Michael, had been a firefighter. For years ago, he died saving people from a burning building. He was a hero, everyone said. But that didn't make him any less gone. The government paid some money, but it ran out fast with rent and bills, and just trying to survive in expensive London. Grace worked at the Silver Rose 5 nights a week. Lily spent those evenings in the restaurant's back room, doing drawings and playing with her toys while her mum served wealthy customers their expensive meals. "It's not perfect," Grace said quietly, stirring her tea. "But we manage, don't we, baby?" Lily nodded, her mouth full of fish fingers. Victoria listened and felt ashamed of herself. Here she was with more money than she could spend in 10 lifetimes, feeling sorry for herself. And here was Grace, working herself to exhaustion, raising a daughter alone, and still managing to smile. "What about you?" Grace asked. "Do you have family here?" Victoria chose her words carefully. "I have a daughter, Rachel. She lives in Australia now with her family." She paused. "We're not close. That's my fault, really. I spent her childhood building my business instead of being there for her." "What kind of business?" Lily asked. Kids always ask the questions adults are too polite to ask. "I help people find homes," Victoria said. "I buy buildings and fix them up so families can live in them." "Are you rich?" Lily asked directly. "Lily." Grace's face went red. "It's okay," Victoria said, smiling for real now. "Yes, sweetheart. I'm wealthy. But you know what? Money doesn't buy the things that really matter." "Like what?" Lily asked. Victoria looked at Grace and Lily sitting across from her. Looked at the drawing Lily had given her, now carefully placed beside her plate. "Like this," she said softly. "Like people who care. Like someone asking if you're okay when you're sad. Like not being alone on Christmas." Lily smiled. "That's what I thought." They talked for over an hour. Victoria found herself sharing things she hadn't spoken about in years. About George and the day he died. about the accident, and learning to live in a wheelchair. About the emptiness of her big house with its 7 bedrooms and no laughter. Grace shared too. About Michael's last day. About explaining to a 3-year-old that Daddy wasn't coming home. About the nights she cried in the shower so Lily wouldn't hear. About wondering if she was strong enough to keep going. Some days are harder than others, Grace said. But then Lily does something sweet or says something funny, and I remember why I keep fighting. As the evening wore on, Victoria watched Grace and Lily together. The way Grace wiped Lily's face, without thinking. The way Lily leaned against her mother's shoulder. The way they had little inside jokes and shared looks that came from knowing each other completely. This is what she'd missed with Rachel. This closeness. This connection. She'd been too busy negotiating property deals to attend school plays. Too focused on profit margins to help with homework. Too important to just be present. And now Rachel is gone, living her own life on the other side of the world. And Victoria was alone with her regrets and her billions. "Can I ask you something?" Victoria said to Grace. "Of course. Are you happy working here? I mean, is this what you want to do with your life?" Grace was quiet for a moment. "Honestly? No. I wanted to be a teacher. I was studying education before I met Michael. But then we got married, had Lily, and life just happened. After Michael died, I needed work immediately. The restaurant was hiring. So here I am." "But it's not your dream." "No," Grace admitted. "But sometimes we don't get to live our dreams. Sometimes we just survive." Victoria nodded slowly. An idea was forming in her mind. A crazy, impulsive idea. But 6 years of careful planning and safe choices had left her miserable and alone. Maybe it was time to be impulsive. Maybe it was time to do something right. "What if I told you," Margaret said carefully, "that you could have a different life? One where you could follow your dream and still be there for Lily?" Grace frowned. "What do you mean?" Victoria took a deep breath. This was it. The moment that would change everything. "Work for me," she said. "I need someone to run the community programs for my company. We give millions to charities every year. Someone needs to decide which projects to support, visit the communities we help, understand what people really need. Someone who knows what it's like to struggle." Grace's eyes went wide. "Mrs. Blake, I can't. I don't have any experience with that kind of work." "Neither did I when I started my company," Victoria said firmly. Grace sat there frozen, her tea getting cold in her hands. Lily had fallen asleep against her shoulder, worn out from all the excitement of the evening. "Mrs. Blake, I appreciate the offer, truly I do," Grace said quietly. "But I can't accept charity." "It's not charity," Victoria said firmly, leaning forward in her wheelchair. "It's a job. A real job. You'd work hard for it, I promise you that. But you'd be paid fairly. You'd have benefits. Health insurance. Normal hours, so you can actually see your daughter grow up. So you can take her to school in the morning and pick her up in the afternoon. So you can have dinner together every night." She paused, her voice becoming softer. "Grace, let me be honest with you. I've been alone for 6 years. Tonight, for the first time since George died, I feel alive again. You and Lily did that. You saw me. Really saw me. Most people look right through me now. They see an old woman in a wheelchair, and they feel uncomfortable. They look away. But Lily walked right up and asked if I was okay." Victoria touched the drawing Lily had given her. "I've spent 6 years realizing that I did everything wrong. I built an empire but lost my family. I have everything money can buy, and nothing that actually matters. Let me do something right for once. Let me help someone who deserves it." Grace's eyes were bright with tears. "Why would you do this for us? You don't even know us." "That's exactly why," Victoria said. "Because you saw me when everyone else looked away. Because your daughter made me feel something other than emptiness for the first time in years. Because I need this as much as you do. I need a reason to keep going. I need to know that my life still has purpose." Grace was silent for a long moment, looking down at Lily sleeping peacefully against her. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "I need to think about it." "Of course," Victoria said. "Take all the time you need." She pulled out a business card and wrote her personal number on the back. Call me when you decide. No pressure. No strings attached. Just an offer from one mother to another. As Grace gathered their things and lifted Lily carefully into her arms, the little girl woke up slightly. Bye, Grandma Victoria, she mumbled sleepily, her eyes barely open. Victoria felt her heart squeeze so hard she could barely breathe. Goodbye, sweetheart. After they left, Victoria sat alone at the table for a long time. The restaurant staff cleaned up around her, but nobody rushed her. She held Emma's drawing and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Purpose. A reason to wake up tomorrow. 3 days later, her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Mrs. Blake. It's Grace. Grace Williams. I've been thinking about your offer. There was a pause. I want to accept. If you're still serious. Victoria sat up straighter in her wheelchair, smiling wider than she had in years. Completely serious. When can you start? The first few weeks were challenging. Grace had to learn everything from scratch. How to evaluate charity applications. How to speak with community leaders. How to manage budgets that had more zeros than she'd ever imagined. She worked long hours, often staying late after Lily fell asleep in the small room Victoria had set up next to her office, filled with toys and books and a comfortable sofa. But Grace was good at it. Really good. She understood what people needed because she'd been there herself. When a food bank applied for funding, Grace knew exactly what questions to ask because she'd relied on one after Michael died. When a homeless shelter needed help, Grace remembered the months she'd been one paycheck away from needing them herself. Victoria watched her flourish, watched her confidence grow, watched her become the person she was meant to be. But not everyone was happy about the changes. Victoria's business partner, a man named Harold, had been with the company for 30 years. He was 65, traditional, and he didn't like changes he hadn't approved. One afternoon, he cornered Victoria in her office. What's this about you hiring some waitress to run our community programs? His voice was cold and sharp. Her name is Grace Williams, Victoria replied calmly, and she's doing excellent work. She has no qualifications, Victoria. No degree. No experience. The board is concerned. The board works for me, Victoria said firmly. For now, Harold said, and there was something ugly in his voice. But Victoria, everyone's noticed you're not well. The hospital visits. The weakness. Smiling face with sunglasses loner, smiling face with sunglasses. January 13th, 2026, 9:59 a.m. Maybe it's time to step back. Let younger people make the decisions. Victoria felt ice in her veins. Are you trying to push me out, Harold? I'm trying to protect the company we built together. That waitress is taking advantage of a sick old woman. Get out of my office, Victoria said quietly. Now. Harold left, but Victoria sat there shaking. Because he wasn't completely wrong about one thing. She was sick. The cancer diagnosis had come 4 months ago. Pancreatic cancer, stage 3. Treatable, the doctors said, but no guarantees. She hadn't told anyone. Not Rachel, not Grace, not even Harold. She was handling it alone, like she handled everything. But Harold was absolutely wrong about Grace. Grace wasn't taking advantage. Grace was the best thing that had happened to Victoria in years. Grace had given her a reason to fight. That evening, Victoria went to Grace's office and found her there late as usual, reviewing applications with intense focus. You work too hard, Victoria said from the doorway. Grace jumped, then smiled. Look who's talking. Can we talk? Something in Victoria's voice made Grace's smile fade. Of course. What's wrong? Victoria wheeled into the office and closed the door. She'd never said the words out loud before. Saying them would make it real. I have cancer, she said simply. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 3. I'm getting treatment, but it's serious. Grace's face went white. Grace stood up from her desk, her hand covering her mouth. Oh, Victoria. How long have you known? For months, Victoria said quietly. The doctors are doing what they can, but there are no promises. Why didn't you tell me? Grace's voice was filled with pain. I thought we were friends. We are friends, Victoria said. That's exactly why I didn't tell you. I didn't want you to feel obligated to stay. I didn't want you to think I hired you because I'm dying and desperate. Is that what you think? Grace asked. That I'd only be here out of obligation? Victoria looked down at her hands, twisted together in her lap. Harold thinks I hired you because I'm lonely and making bad decisions because I'm sick. That you're taking advantage of me. Is that what you believe? Grace asked quietly. No, Victoria said firmly, looking up. I hired you because you're capable and kind. But yes, Grace, you and Lily have made me less lonely. You've given me a reason to keep fighting. Is that wrong? Grace was quiet for a long moment. Then she came around the desk and knelt beside Victoria's wheelchair. She took Victoria's hands in hers. When Michael died, I thought my life was over, Grace said softly. I couldn't imagine going on without him. But I had Lily, and she needed me. So I kept going, even on the days when I didn't want to. Even on the days when getting out of bed felt impossible. She squeezed Victoria's hands. You're not taking advantage of me, Victoria. You gave me a chance when nobody else would. You saw something in me that I'd forgotten was there. So no, it's not wrong that we help each other. That's what people do. That's what family does. From the small room next door came a sleepy voice. Mummy. Lily appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. She'd been listening. Children always hear more than you think. Grandma Victoria is sick? She asked, her voice small and scared. Grace opened her mouth to answer, but Lily was already crossing the room. She climbed into Victoria's lap, careful and gentle. When my daddy got sick, Lily said seriously, wrapping her small arms around Victoria's neck, Mummy said we had to give him extra love to help him fight. So we'll give you extra love too, okay? Victoria held this child who wasn't hers, but felt like hers, and she sobbed. Great heaving sobs that shook her whole body. All the fear and loneliness and pain she'd been holding inside for months came pouring out. Grace wrapped her arms around both of them, and they stayed like that for a long time. 3 people who'd been broken by loss, holding each other together. That night, after Grace and Lily had gone home, Victoria did something she hadn't done in over a year. She called her daughter. Rachel answered on the 4th ring, sounding surprised. Mom? Is everything okay? It's late there. No, darling, Victoria said, her voice shaking. It's not okay. She told Rachel everything. The cancer, the treatment, the fear of dying alone. And then she said the words she should have said years ago. I'm sorry, Rachel. I'm so sorry I wasn't there for you growing up. I'm sorry I chose work over you. I was a terrible mother. I put money before love, and I lost you because of it. Silence on the other end of the line. Please, Victoria continued, tears streaming down her face. Please let me finish. I can't change the past. I know that. But I want to do better now if it's not too late. I miss you. I love you. And I'm asking if you can forgive me. More silence. Victoria held her breath, waiting. Mom, Rachel finally said, her voice thick with tears. I've been waiting for years to hear you say that. They talked for 4 hours that night. Really talked, like they hadn't since Rachel was a little girl. About hurt feelings and missed moments, and the wall that had built up between them over decades. About how Rachel had felt like she wasn't important enough for her own mother's time. About how Victoria had thought providing money was the same as providing love. I want to come home, Rachel said finally. Not just for a visit. Really come home. The kids need to know their grandmother. And I need my mum. I'd like that very much, Victoria whispered. More than anything in the world. Over the next few months, everything changed. Rachel moved back to London with her family. Her husband found work easily, and her 2 children started at local schools. They moved into a house just 10 minutes from Victoria's, close enough to visit every day. Victoria continued her treatment. Some days were good. She'd go to the office and work with Grace, reviewing projects and making plans. Some days were terrible. She'd be too weak to get out of bed, and Rachel or Grace would sit with her, reading to her or just holding her hand. But she was never alone. Never. Grace brought homemade soup when Victoria was too sick to eat. Lily drew pictures to stick on Victoria's bedroom walls, filling the empty house with color and life. Rachel's children would visit after school, climbing carefully onto Victoria's bed to tell her about their day. The community programs flourished under Grace's leadership. She had a gift for understanding what people truly needed. Under her guidance, they funded after-school programs for children who'd lost parents. They supported job training for single mothers. They built community centers in poor neighborhoods. They gave chances to people who just needed someone to believe in them. Harold eventually resigned when the board voted to keep Victoria as CEO and Grace as director of community programs. They'd seen what Victoria had seen, that choosing compassion over cold business strategy was not just the right thing to do, but the smart thing too. That Christmas, exactly 1 year after Victoria first met Grace and Lily, they all gathered in Victoria's home. Rachel and her family. Grace and Lily. Friends they'd collected along the way. People from the community programs who'd become like family. Victoria was weaker now. The cancer was winning, slowly, but surely. But she was happy. Truly, deeply happy in a way she'd never been before, not even when she was healthy and wealthy and at the top of her career. Lily climbed carefully into her lap, mindful of all the medical equipment that now filled Victoria's living room. Grandma Victoria, I made you something. It was another drawing, but more detailed this time. More stick figures. Victoria recognized them all. Rachel and her husband and children. Grace and Lily. And in the middle, Victoria in her wheelchair. All of them holding hands in a circle. We're a family, Lily said simply. All of us together. Victoria held the drawing to her chest, tears rolling freely down her face. Yes, sweetheart. We are. Rachel came and sat on the arm of Victoria's wheelchair, taking her mother's hand. I love you, Mum. I love you too, darling, Victoria whispered. I'm sorry it took me so long to show it properly. You're showing it now, Rachel said firmly. That's what matters. Grace stood nearby, watching with her own tears falling. Victoria reached out her other hand, and Grace took it immediately. Thank you, Victoria said to her. Thank you for seeing me that night. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for giving me a reason to keep fighting. Thank you for giving us a family, Grace replied. Thank you for believing in me when nobody else did. Victoria looked around the room at all these people. Her daughter, her grandchildren, Grace, Lily, friends and colleagues, and people whose lives she'd touched through the community programs. Her house, which had been so empty and silent for 6 years, was now filled with laughter and love and life. I spent 40 years building an empire, Victoria said quietly, addressing everyone in the room. I thought that was success. I thought that was winning. I was wrong. She held up Lily's drawing. This is success. This is winning. Having people who care. Having people who show up. Having love in your life. That's the only wealth that really matters. Victoria died 4 months later, on a quiet Tuesday morning in April. She wasn't alone. Rachel held one hand. Grace held the other. Lily sat at the foot of her bed, singing a song she'd learned at school. The last thing Victoria heard was that sweet, pure voice singing about sunshine and love. Her last words were to Lily. Thank you for showing me what really matters, sweetheart. At her funeral, Grace told the story of a lonely woman and a struggling waitress and a little girl who brought them together on Christmas Eve. The church was packed with people whose lives Victoria had touched in her final years. Victoria Blake changed my life, Grace said, her voice strong despite her tears. She gave me a chance when nobody else would. But more than that, she gave Lily and me a family. She taught me that it's never too late to change. It's never too late to choose love over everything else. Years later, Grace still runs the community programs. They've helped tens of thousands of people now, given chances to countless families who just needed someone to believe in them. The programs have expanded to 3 other cities, always following Victoria's principle: see people, really see them, and give them what they truly need. And every Christmas, they gather together. Rachel and her family, now including grandchildren of her own. Grace and Lily, who's in university now studying to be a teacher like her mom always wanted to be. They tell Victoria's story. They remember the woman who learned in her final years what really mattered. Because family isn't always about blood, you see. Sometimes it's about choice. About showing up. About seeing someone who's hurting and saying, "You don't have to be alone." Sometimes family is a waitress and her daughter and a lonely old woman who found each other on Christmas Eve and decided to hold on tight. Sometimes family is love, pure and simple. That's Victoria's legacy. Not the billions she made. Not the buildings that still carry her name. But the lives she changed by finally learning to put people first. By finally understanding that success without love is just loneliness in an expensive package. Because nobody should be alone. Not on Christmas. Not ever. The world tells you that success is about money and power and achievement. The world tells you to climb higher, earn more, win bigger. But I'm telling you this story tonight to remind you of something the world often forgets. The only thing that matters at the end is love. The people who show up. The hands that hold yours. The voices that say your name with tenderness. The hearts that break when yours stops beating. Victoria Blake had everything, and she had nothing. Then she lost everything material, and she gained everything that mattered. So tonight, if you're sitting alone somewhere feeling like Victoria did that Christmas Eve, I want you to know something. It's not too late. It's never too late to reach out. To say you're sorry. To ask for help. To build the family your heart needs. And if you're the one who's doing okay, I want you to look around. Really look. See the people who are struggling. The ones who are alone. The ones who are crying where they think nobody will notice. Be like Lily. Walk up and ask if they're okay. Offer your hand. Share your heart. Because that's how we change the world. One connection at a time. One moment of kindness at a time. One family built on choice and love at a time. That's Victoria's story. That's the truth she learned too late, but still in time. And that's the truth I'm passing on to you tonight. Thanks for your watching. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to the Story Room for meaningful stories that inspire and teach life lessons.